The Spread of Buddhism. Please be on page 102 in your note-taking study guide and page 230 and 231 in your textbook. Let's go ahead and start with the quote on page 230 in your textbook. Go ahead and read that. It says, "Go forth from the gain of many for the welfare of many and compassion for the world. Preach the glorious doctrine, proclaim the life of holiness." Okay, and so that was basically Siddhartha Gautama's kind of response after his instructions to his followers is go out and teach my teachings. And so this has to do with the spread of Buddhism. It began in India, obviously, but Buddhist missionaries took Buddhism to Ceylon, or we would call that Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia. Okay, missionaries also spread Buddhism to Central Asia and then to China. From there, from China, not from India, but from China, it spread to Korea and Japan. That's why Buddhism in China, Korea, and Japan have very many similarities between each other. And later, it spread to Tibet, where it became a central way of life there as well. And if you look on page 230 in your textbook, you'll see a map of the spread of Buddhism, and you can kind of see how the arrows went. So you can see that it got to China through Central Asia, went to Tibet from India, and then into Southeast Asia from India. So you can kind of see how it spread around Asia. There's two schools of kind of Buddhist thought. And if you look on page 232 of your textbook, there's a chart there that says two schools of Buddhism. And you have the Theravada, or Little Raft Buddhism, and the Mahayana, Big Raft Buddhism. That chart is very good in kind of showing the main differences between these schools of thought. Please study that for a little bit, and then we'll be discussing it a little bit more in class. Okay, so you have Buddha's greatest virtue, if you're Theravada Buddhism, is wisdom. His most important aspect is he went and reached nirvana, and their main religious practice is meditation. So in Tibet, Theravada Buddhism; in Thailand, Theravada Buddhism. Okay, Mahayana Buddhism is by far the most common type of Buddhism. Buddha's greatest virtue is compassion, and the most important aspect of Buddha's life is his decision to remain on earth to help those. So it's not the fact that he got into nirvana; it's that he came back after he reached nirvana to help those and teach those. And the main practice is prayer, which is similar to meditation, but it's more directly at Buddhism. Meditation is more clearing your mind and trying to reach nirvana yourself rather than praying for others, let's say. We also have Buddhism's decline and legacy. The moral teachings have spread all around the world, but first let's discuss why Buddhism declined. The biggest factor leading to that was the fact that it has to do with the kind of Hinduism itself. One of the factors of Hinduism, one of the traits of Hinduism as a religion, is that it absorbs any teaching that comes along. And so any of the teachings that the Buddha came up with were basically over time absorbed into Hinduism. And so in India today, you pretty much, even though it started in India, you really don't have any Hindus there. Any Buddhists there, excuse me. And a minor factor was small wars and things like that, but the major factor was the actual characteristics of Hinduism itself. The second, Buddhism's legacy is that 1 in every 8 people in the world practice Buddhism, and it appeals to many other people and other faiths, the teachings, the moral teachings itself. There's a lot of ethical teaching, that was our concept lesson, ethical teaching. And the Buddhism has given the world religious writings and temples and sculptures. And if you look on page 234 of your textbook, you can kind of see an example of kind of a religious monument, a Buddhist monument. And then you can also see a giant image of Buddha that's inside that temple there. So take some time just to read some of those captions there on page 234. Also, please turn to page 236 in your textbook, and you'll see a little chart that's just comparing Buddhism and Hinduism. And it's a brief chart, but just to read over the differences and the similarities between those two religions. And we're going to discuss more of that in class, and we'll be doing a chart. So I just want to give you a preview of what we're going to be doing, so you can see that they're who are the spiritual leaders or teachers, who are the religious texts, or what are the religious texts, what do they believe in the afterlife, and the belief practices. We can